Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a software called SketchUp. Now SketchUp is a software that is used primarily for visualization purposes. It also is compatible with AutoCAD. You can bring in DWGs and quickly extrude them and make them into a building. It also has a purchase software version of it, but I'm using the online version. I will provide the link in the description of this YouTube video. And if you purchase the software, you can attach rendering softwares, you can add Blender to this, and you can get really crisp interiors. Now, how I use this software particularly is for visualization purposes, diagram purposes, if I'm doing sun paths or something like that, and I can do a quick study of shadows. And they also have a 3D warehouse, where you can take proprietary objects or even full-blown house designs and bring them in as components into your project. Now, once you open up this project or this link that I will provide, that's placed here, you'll end up on this page. You'll be prompted to log into it through a Google account or a Microsoft account. Either way, create an account so you can save things on here. It is also linked through Trimble Connect, which is pretty much an online database. You can save it on their cloud. So let's go ahead and get started. You can change the file name, you could save it, but these are the tools that you're going to primarily use for modification. The first command on here is the select or a space command, but this simply allows you to select objects that are already there. Erase, paint bucket, and let's go ahead and start with our rectangle tool. When you select your rectangle tool, every one of these tools have a small arrow next to it, and they have multiple features. So we're going to start with the rectangle tool, and as you select the small arrow, again you have rectangle, you have rotated rectangles, circles, polygon, and again you have your red axis. But let's go ahead and start with the rectangle command. The moment you start drawing your rectangle, your dimensions will come up on the bottom right. And as I draw out, I'm just going to make this square 12 feet, comma 12 feet. Notice how this is relatively sized. By default, you're looking at a perspective view. Next, you're going to go ahead and use push-pull. This is how you extrude in this software. Anytime you extrude an object up, you can also specify the distance here, and your direction is dictated by whichever size your mouse is. Next, you're going to be looking at this line tool. So I'm going to use the line tool to divide these two this surface. Now, if I divide the surface, it becomes two individual surfaces, so they can be extruded independently of each other. Notice how it does that very quickly. Again, I can input the magnitude here, or I can subtract that difference in the 3D. Now, if I was to go ahead and draw additional shapes, again, it is very intuitive. You can go ahead and continue extruding. One feature I do want to mention is if two surfaces meet while you're extruding, so let's say I'm extruding from here and I meet it on the back end, you're going to end up having the two surfaces go away and you have a void. It recognizes mass and void. Again, great for diagram study. Now, if you want to rotate this object, again, all your modified tools are compacted into this move tool. We have shortcuts like M. You do not have to hit enter to enter into them. So let's say we want to rotate. And in the rotate tool, notice how I'm blue axis, which means there's a line going through that point on blue axis for reference of rotation or axis of rotation. And I am going to rotate about this red axis and turn towards green. Since I have not selected the whole object, it's just turning that surface. Again, very easy to visualize how it's turning just that surface and trying to maintain the bottom base. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, as you can see, the moment I draw an additional square or in shape on top of a three-dimensional object, it immediately becomes a part of that object. Give you an example. I'm going to use the hexagon tool, and I'm drawing this on the face. And when I push pull, Notice how it's instantly part of that original surface that I drew out from. So you can, if you want to isolate multiple objects, you can triple click. So this is another feature in SketchUp that is unique to itself. If you single click on an object, it selects the surface. Double click on that object, it selects the surface and its edges. And then you triple click on an object and it selects everything that is attached to it. In this case, everything that's there. I can right click and make that a group. Once it turns into a group, it is now an individual object. So if I copy this over, so I'm going to use move copy. So what is move copy? I can simply select move tool. As I am moving this object, notice how I'm able to give it a magnitude as well, and the directions dictated by where my mouse is snapping to the blue axis. The moment I hit the control key, it creates that copy. I can simply then snap it right there. Despite the fact the two objects are touching, you're able to see that there's a dark bold line here. Anytime I want to modify this group, I have to double click into the group, and now I can modify that group. Notice now I'm going to go ahead and draw another circle here, and I can push pull this as well. And this group is completely isolated from this group. Despite the fact that they're touching, I can simply move them out of the way. Now, another feature that's inside SketchUp is the ability to make components, which are pretty much known as blocks or families in Revit. So blocks in AutoCAD, families in Revit. So I'm going to go ahead and use the rectangle tool again, and we're going to go ahead and extrude another prism. So when I extrude this prism, this object right now, if I was to attach anything else to it, if I was to push something along and move to it, notice despite that being an individual object, if I decide to move it again, it is attached to the square. They are not individual groups. Now, if I was to take these objects and turn this object into a component, once I make it a component, I have to name this component. I'm going to call it a chair at this point. Press OK. Now, once this is a chair, let's make it behave like a chair by actually cutting out an object out of it. So in order to alter a component, you double click into the component. So double left click will get you into the component. You simply draw your rectangle however you want to draw it. Since this is going to be a chair, let's mimic a chair. We're not too worried about the dimensions here. So once I have this chair drawn, I can simply copy it around by using move copy. Again, I selected the move tool, hit the control key once, and I can move copy. If I hit the move tool and I do not use the control key, it simply is moving that object. Control makes another copy. So now I have these three chairs. Now, let's say the height of these chairs change, or we have to add a cushion to the back. I simply click on one of the components, and as I decide to alter this one component, it will alter all the components that are linked to it. Again, this is the chair component. How I would utilize this feature is I would model one chair and place it in the entire theater or the entire school. If the client decides to change the chair or a different model has to be substituted, I can simply go in and alter the component itself. And once I alter this component, and let's say I brought this box in, I can simply come in and say, okay, go bye old chair. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that, and this is going to be the new chair. And simply put, if you use the same origin, it ends up becoming, it will replace the object altogether. I have used this feature for lighting. Again, you have features such as Boolean difference, anything that overlaps. Feel free to explore the software on your own. Again, this becomes very, very intuitive when you're able to actually see the object by placing yourself inside of it at an eye point of view. You can also create walkthrough for your clients. Lastly, you have this command called orbit. Orbit, you can simply enter it by hitting O. Again, we're not hitting enter after all of these shortcuts, or you can just hold down your scroll wheel. You can pretty much go around an object, orbit around it. Based on where your mouse is, you can orbit around wherever your mouse lands. You can zoom out, zoom in by just scrolling your wheel. And you also have zoom extend, which allows you to pretty much zoom into everything that you're drawing. So these are some of the features. Feel free to check out this video. If you have any questions or concern, place it in the comments below. And as always, to show support, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Follow for more content.